This week, Asmodee picks up the distribution rights to Duncan Rhodes' Too Thin Coats paint line. Total War Warhammer 3 has a patch coming in April that might get me back into the game, and Chaosgate continues to bring the hype, introducing 2 characters I really want to cosplay. This and more in this week's Hobby News. I'm Angela, you're watching Hobby Night, now let's get to it. We're going to start off talking Asmodee because, as you might have heard from the introduction, they've picked up the distribution license for Duncan Rhodes' Too Thin Coats paint line, along with a variety of other tabletop games licenses, which is not unusual for them, but there were a few standouts outside of the paint line that I'm very interested in. Modiphius Entertainment is giving them the license to distribute the adventure game for Skyrim, which means if you wanted to get a hold of that but didn't get in on the Kickstarter, you now can, kind of like how you can with the Duncan Rhodes paints as well. And Parabellum is actually going to be distributing the entire Conquest: The Arguments of the Last Kings war game through them, which is a really cool looking war game. I've always been very interested in it, but I've never really had a good opportunity to find people playing it because it's been a little bit more obscure, at least in my area. I'm hoping that with this new licensing with Asmodee, it means that I'll actually be able to see it in stores a bit more and maybe get my hands on it. Now, keeping with the Asmodee news, they were also recently acquired by Embracer Group, which is a Swedish company that works with a lot of video game companies. They own Nordic Entertainment, which does the Destroy All Humans game, which I would love to see in board game format. So maybe we'll see a crossover there between Asmodee and Nordic Entertainment. They also have the license for Saber Interactive and the Space Marine 2 game, which makes me go, does that mean Games Workshop is going to end up having a game potentially at Asmodee that is specifically tied to that Space Marine 2 license? Is that where we're going to get our Titus Mini? Who knows? I'm very intrigued by all these changes with Asmodee. It is a little ashamed to see them continue to gobble everybody up, but at the same time, it means more eyes get on the product. So I guess I'm okay with it because that's really just what I want. I want more people playing more games. Creative Assembly announced that there's going to be a patch for Total War Warhammer 3 coming out in April, and I've been looking at what the patch notes include, and it's got me a lot more excited to jump back into the game. As a lot of you know, we did start a Let's Play series on the channel with Total War Warhammer 3, and we kind of just let it go because, frankly, the Chaos Realms campaign, you guys, is just not what I was really wanting it to be. It's a race to get the souls of a bunch of demons, which does sound fun, but as a Nurgle player especially, who kind of wants the slow build and just to like spread my plagues around and do that kind of thing, really felt rushed and it was really uncomfortable to play, frankly. But with these changes that are coming, like the fact that the negative effects when you come out of the Chaos Realms aren't going to be as powerful, if you go into your own Chaos God's realm, you're no longer going to get a negative trait from them, which was great because one of the first realms that I went into was Papa Nurgles as Kugoth, and then I came out with a plague or like a negative trait that like affected me that was Nurgle themed. I'm like, why is this affecting me? Shouldn't this give me like a buff or something? I am Nurgle. Why? So that's not going to happen anymore. Plus, there's going to be ways to easily get rid of the gates now. You're going to be able to put defense buildings into your cities that will prevent them from spawning. So it just makes it a lot easier. Plus, you're going to be able to disrupt the other players in the game actually trying to collect souls. So if you're not wanting to rush and collect everything and you're wanting to do a little bit more of like a campaign map game, you might be able to do that a little bit easier now. I still don't know if we're going to be bringing the channel, like the game back to the channel quite yet. I think I'm going to hold it off until they actually release Immortal Empires or Mortal Empires, whatever they're calling their big map nowadays, because that's really how I want to play. I just want to go in with a Chaos Cultist on the giant map and be able to spread my plague around while he rampages off as Khorne or whatever other faction he may end up wanting to play. Who knows, it may change by then. But I definitely want to just have a true Nurgle game, and these patches make me excited for what's coming to it. Chaosgate Demon Hunter continues to bring the hype with a brand new trailer. Let's take a look.
Chaosgate Demon Hunters is set in the Tirteus sector, a cluster of star systems quite distant from the Grey Knight's home base of Titan. You're promoted to acting commander by the ship's veteran purifier, Brother Ektar. Your mission's expected to be routine, and all of those plans are, of course, changed abruptly when an Imperial Inquisitor arrives on board to commandeer your ship and send you off in search of evidence of an impending plague. The hunt for the truth behind the bloom and the battle to prevent it from spreading to the wider Imperium is the central conflict behind the game.
The Baleful Edict is your strike cruiser. It acts as a mobile base of operations as you travel around the sector fighting the bloom's corruption. Each section of the ship gives you access to different systems that you'll need to manage over the course of the game.
The Strategium is where Aeldari helps you oversee the conflict against the bloom. From here you can access the barracks, which houses your knights and allows you to manage their equipment and upgrades. You'll also be able to access the armory, which is where you can review equipment made available to you by the Grand Master Varden Kai. With such high stakes riding on the mission, tension between your crew and the Inquisitor is inevitable. So you'll have to work closely with each of them to ensure your success. Brother Ekdar, a veteran purifier with a well-honed sense of knightly duty. You have Dominus Lunette, an ancient tech priest of the Adeptus Mechanicus, who's responsible for tending to the needs of the ship. And finally, Inquisitor Vakir herself, whose ambition drives you further into hazard, as you work together to stop the bloom from spreading.
The Grand Manufactorum is where you'll find Dominus Lunette. As the ranking tech priest, she's responsible for overseeing repairs to the Edict systems, things like power generators, the warp drive, gun batteries, and more. It'll be up to you to prioritize which systems to restore first, to give you the best chance of keeping up with the rapidly spreading corruption.
The Libris Malleus is Vakir's temporary home on board the ship, a storehouse of valuable and secret knowledge. Here, the Inquisitor will conduct her research to better understand the bloom.
The Imperial Inquisition is responsible for hunting down anything that represents a threat to the Imperium's stability. It's organized into several divisions with the Ordo Malleus and their Chamber Militant, although she enters the story more or less as a complete outsider to the rest of the crew. Her rank as an Imperial Inquisitor gives her the authority to step in and seek out the Grey Knight's help. They are, after all, allies in the Ordo Malleus, but her position on the ship isn't exactly secure. She has to tread a really careful line when she's dealing with Ekdar and the other Grey Knights. Although she's a powerful psyker, Vakir is a human, vulnerable to corruption and external influence.
So you will have to balance your limited resources against her ambitious objectives, keeping your squads alive and ready to tackle the next threat.
At first, you can combine 4 different classes to make up your Grey Knight squad. There are Justicars, tough frontline warriors. Interceptors, fast and mobile skirmishers. Purgators, they are heavy weapon specialists. And the Apothecary, a powerful healer and support unit. As the game progresses, you'll open up access to an additional 4 specialized classes, each with their own unique abilities and tactical options to diversify your squad.
One of the biggest challenges in designing a game about the Grey Knights was in capturing their distinct approach to combat. Their war gear is very unique for an Astartes. With melee weapons being a central part of their identity, their battle plan is typically geared towards getting up close and personal with foes.
When fighting at range, you'll still get all the advantages you're used to. You know, things like cover protection, overwatch, suppression, flanking. You can take a shot and you know what kind of damage you're going to do. But our precision targeting system opens up a ton of options for getting down and dirty in melee.
To us, that meant giving you tactical incentives to break from cover and charge through hordes of enemies.
By getting in close, you can strike your enemy's weak points to nullify their attacks, break down their defenses, or totally disable their abilities. Stun an enemy, and you open them up to a brutal execution that can give your whole squad a momentum boost to continue the assault.
And that doesn't even factor all the extra war gear, master-crafted weaponry, and psychic abilities that will open up even more tactical options.
Your knights can be fully customized with over 30 active, passive, and reaction-based abilities per class. That forces you to make some tough choices as you create the squads that best suit your playstyle.
Grey Knights are not just masters of blade and bolter. They also have access to a wide range of powerful psychic abilities that can be used to subdue your enemies or provide support to your battle brothers. As the Inquisitor researches the bloom, she will learn powerful psychic stratagems that can be used to support your squads in combat. Used correctly, they can turn the tide of an entire battle.
In Chaosgate Demon Hunters, we give you all the tools you need to face down fearsome odds, but we leave the battle plan up to you.
I absolutely love both the female characters that they sort of spotlighted in this particular trailer. The Inquisitor is gorgeous. I really, really want to cosplay her. I think it'd be quite easy and very fun, and she just looks so amazing. Also, she's totally my waifu. But on the other hand, I also really like the AdMech lady, because every time I see a female AdMech character, I just think of Mechanicus with both of the two lead characters there, and it just delights me because I really love that book. It's one of the few like Warhammer books that I've like super enjoyed everything about it, and I just love it. It's so cool. So I'm really excited for this game. I know we're going to be getting more information about it down the line as it is coming out in May. So I'll be continuing to cover it and hopefully be playing it on the channel sometime in the future once it's released. I hope you guys are looking forward to that. And I'd love to know your thoughts on Chaosgate down below. Rejoice, Aeldari players, because that really cool Autarch on the cover of your codex, well, Games Workshop has corrected their mistake, and now you can actually run he or her as that particular loadout, and it's fantastic. Make sure you check the Warhammer community site to see the full details of all the stats change, which override anything in the Eldritch Omens box or the current codex that they just released. It is really a shame that this happened and that they didn't, forward plan a little bit better this way, but at least they've corrected it, and now you can make that really cool model. It's that time of the video where I interrupt to tell you about my Patreon and to let you know that we just added a Discord server which all tiers get access to. So if you're wanting a way to chat with me, share with me your projects, or just tell me what board games you're playing, definitely make sure to check the link below and check out my Patreon. All right, next up, we need to talk about those creepy crawly NIDs because we're getting that slow trickle of rules coming out from Games Workshop, and we're starting off with the Synaptic Imperative Powers, which is a new thing that your Synapse creatures can do to sort of buff your army, and they function very similarly to how the Necron protocols work, except they're way better because you can keep choosing each battle round. You don't have to be stuck in the order that you originally picked at the very beginning. The basic way that it works is if your army has the Hive Tendrils keyword and they're all from the same Hive fleet, then at the start of each battle round, you get to pick one Synaptic Imperative, which is a powerful aura-like ability. Looking through them, they've previewed a few, and they all seem to have about a 6-inch range, which seems pretty standard and reasonable, but they do seem to affect a variety of different units, buffing, and all that. What is relevant, which I really like because it gives the NID players a lot of versatility, and it means that they can actually make some strategic choices as they're playing and going into each new battle round, depending on what they may still have on the board alive or what their actual objectives are for the game. Additionally, we got to start seeing some buffs from various units, particularly some of the bigger boys like the Carnifex, which has improved movement speed, weapon skill, a better wound, and saving throw. We also got to see the Maleceptor, which I honestly don't feel like I've seen run very often, but I absolutely love him because he kind of reminds me of the Blight Hauler, and that little bulging brain sticking out of the side is just so cute. But part of the reason we may not have seen him is because he got a lot of buffs. He's a lot better now. He has improved movement speed, weapon skill, and ballistic skill, toughness, a greater number of wounds, and a better leadership. So maybe he wasn't so great before, and that's why I wasn't seeing him. We also got to take a small peek at what the Hormagaunts are going to be getting, and they've got some minor improvements also in the speed, in the attack range, and not attack range, but the number of attacks they have, and then saving throw. So it does look like the NIDs, much like the Aeldari, are getting a kind of overall buff to their speed across the board, which makes sense. They're also supposed to be fast boys. I'm curious to see if we're going to see other stat lines continue to have these similar upgrades. Additionally, we did also get to learn that the Hormagaunts, Termagaunts, and Gargoyles are now even scarier with their Swarming Masses ability. This allows them as models to fight in combat if they are within engagement range, which makes sense, that's how everybody does it, but they also can do it if they're within 2.5 inches of an enemy unit, making those swarms a lot scarier and still viable to run despite the fact that blast can kind of hurt them a little bit more nowadays. It's going to be interesting to see what the NID players end up doing. I don't know if they're going to still stick with the really heavy swarms or if we're going to see an increase of like monsters and stuff as we continue to see these rules roll out, but it is very exciting and I am very intrigued by all the NIDs, I will admit. The last thing that I want to talk about this week is the fact that we are getting some really cool Lord of the Rings models soon because the Easterlings are getting the first time ever seen before Dragon Emperor model, and he looks rad. I love all of the dragon details on the palanquin. I just Love Palanquin models in general. Also the, I think they're called Blackguard that are carrying him look badass. That armor is spectacular. And I also really like the attention to detail on his mask. Additionally, we're also getting some more Warriors of Moria and Lake Town models returning from, honestly, I think the Vaults, because I think they were away for a while. There's quite a few great models here in this lineup that are coming back. In particular, I really like the dragon, simply because honestly, it just kind of looks like how I imagine a dragon's supposed to be looking, so I just really think it's top. There's also Gorblog, which is one of the Goblin Boys, and he just looks so majestic mounted on that pillar. I've also now just realized I have a thing about models being like sort of haunched and hanging on pillars, because I also really like the vampire guy that does that too. There's actually 2 different vampire dudes that do that, and I love both of them. I have a thing for guys standing on pillars, I guess. And then also the Moria Black Shield Warband. Like, just that entire collection is great, but specifically there's one carrying a drum that has like a human flesh like stretched over top of it. And from the angle that they've taken the picture at, you only just see like the limbs and like the skinned face and everything, and it's so good. I just really love how creepy and gross it is, and it's just really, really cool to see these awesome Lord of the Ring models returned to the board. All right, that has been it for this week in hobby news. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching. A very special thank you to my patrons for supporting us and making it so content like this can continue to happen. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this, so thank you very much. I have been Angela, you've been watching Hobby Night, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!